My name is Jake Gottfried, and I would like to apologize for how late this video is. Obviously, this would be something you do at the end of the year or very early next year when all is said and done, and every movie I probably would want to see before I make this list comes out. But the truth of the matter is, I'm in a very different stage of my life right now. I have moved to a college dorm, and I'm recording this outside, and hopefully no one has a problem with that. But I really wanted to talk about how much has changed in terms of my time schedule. And I know I haven't posted on my YouTube channel in a year. In fact, this whole video is unscripted and I'm improvising the whole thing. So obviously it's not going to be as well structured and very obviously not as prestigious as I've done before in the past with these videos. But nonetheless, I did want to do this, especially before the Oscars come out. And I feel like it's very important that when all is said and done, I just want to talk about what I like. And I feel it's very important to talk about the movies I recommend people to see, even if my voice is one in a million. Maybe someone will hear it and be interested in what I'm making. So that being said, I'm going to share with you my favorite movies of 2024, my 20 choices to recommend. Number 20, Look Back. What an amazing anime film. Like, it's under an hour long, and you can watch it right now on Amazon Prime and get, honestly, such a unique experience that's hard to explain without just spoiling it. And a lot of these movies, obviously, I recommend you go in, maybe going in blind, maybe you should look it up and go in not sure what to expect. Because I think that's what matters, is that you know what type of movies are meant for you. And for me, this is a great movie that talks about creativity, passion, loss. Really, Look Back is just such a unique gem and a great way to start off this list. Number 19, Late Night with the Devil. This movie sort of got controversy. Well, not sort of. It did get controversy with the AI in it. And if that's a turnoff for you, understandable. And I'm not going to pretend like, well, for me, I did kind of understand why. Like, if you watch the movie, yeah, you could definitely tell it did have a budget. But God, man, what they do and what they accomplish is amazing. Like, it's some of the most unique horror, like the whole use of like this 70s talk show, and David Dastmalchian and gives easily maybe my favorite performance of the year. Like, man, he is so good in this. And this is just a really unique and effective horror film that really is something that was worth watching. Number 18, Monkey Man. You know, I gotta thank Dev Patel for a good birthday movie. Yeah, this is something I saw on my birthday, and man, with all the John Wick movies coming out a lot trying to be like it, this definitely shows that, well, sure, this is inspired by it. I mean, it does reference it from memory. This truly stands on its own. It's such a unique, okay, I can't keep saying unique because I'm going to repeat myself until unique means nothing, but Monkey Man truly is such a bizarre, yet effective action film that, well, it's got such great fights, memorable storytelling, and honestly, Dev Patel really proves himself as just a force to be reckoned with. Number 17, Transformers 1. I say this as someone who's not even a big Transformers guy. You know, it's one of those things where people talk about how bad the movies are, and when it's finally a movie that people are like, this is easily the best one, no one goes to see it. And yeah, I was definitely one of those people who was just, even if I had the time, I don't know if I would, but watching it is some of the most bizarrely compelling and interesting storytelling in an animated film with just the arcs of Optimus Prime and Megatron is so fascinating. Like, it's hard to exaggerate it without just being that on its own, like, worth recommending. But it is such beautiful animation, really good voice acting from the two leads. And honestly, it's full of surprises that, sure, even if it is predictable, the execution is so good. It transforms really what I think about this franchise. Number 16, Wicked. I mean, I don't know if I can say anything new about Wicked. Sure, I did think the movie, you know, this summer being a part 1 of 2, because, you know, it is. And sure, I did feel like it falls into a lot of prequel traps. Not even that. I know it's based on a Broadway show, but it's one of those things where everything about being a prequel to the Wizard of Oz movie, you could tell. But regardless, I just really like the movie, the music, the imagery. I like the performances. Really, it's one of those things where I don't know if I have anything new to say about it by this point, but yeah, I still recommend it even if you haven't watched it yet. And truly was a movie that, even if some people have a problem with how it looks, seeing it on the big screen truly changes my mind about it. Number 15, Turtles All the Way Down. Okay, yeah, this movie, if you haven't seen it, I don't blame you. It was a Max exclusive when really, HBO Max sort of fell in on itself, even if they do have a lot of good stuff on it. It's just a shame. But regardless, this is based on the Hank Green novel that, if you know his work, you know it. But regardless, on its own, this was just such a fascinating movie that really showed Isabel Merced and Creek Cucino, two people who I did kind of grow up watching on Nickelodeon, really viewed themselves as, actors to be taken seriously, but very interesting storytelling and characters that, hey, won't be for everyone, but for me, really was something I won't forget in a good long while and still has stuck with me after all this time. Number 14, The Wild Robot. I mean, yeah, it's a really good movie. I don't know if I loved it as much as everyone else. Like, this is one of the bottom list anime films on my list, but that does not, discredit in any way. Like, this is such a fascinating and beautiful animated film about parenthood, accepting moving on, finding your place in the world, finding your people. Like, it's just beautiful and really hard to not forget about. And that's really something you look for into movies that just aren't afraid to be one thing and surprise you by being something else afterwards. I know I'm not saying as much as I should about it in full detail, and I know there's, again, a lot about this that I don't know if there's anything new for me to say, and I know it has been something I've been a bit repetitive. I know what I like, and I know what to recommend, but here's something I don't think a lot of people are talking about. Number 13, Patrice the Movie. I mean, it's kind of hard to say I'm not a little biased because this matters a lot to me personally. It's about Patrice Jeter, who is a beloved school crossing guard from New Jersey, and her journey about being on the spectrum and being in love. And, well, I would say in a world that doesn't necessarily treat her with the respect she deserves, but that's our world. And this definitely speaks to me a lot for those reasons. But it really just speaks to me about human kindness and pursuit of just doing what you love. I loved all the flashbacks, using the stage play to tell her life story. There's so much about this I love, and so much more about this that even if things aren't perfect, you can find the people who just mean the world to you. Number 12, Nosferatu. I mean, Robert Eggers made my favorite movie of all time, The Lighthouse, from 2019. So, 5 years later, I think I'm going to go see his probably most successful film. And I say this as someone who has barely scratched the surface with knowing anything about Nosferatu other than just, being a SpongeBob reference. Like, I know what it is. And it is one of the most important films in, well, probably a lot of categories. I mean, horror, silent, etc. And so there is a lot to live up to, and he definitely succeeds at. Like, I'm not going to pretend it's perfect or better than The Lighthouse, but the cinematography is easily some of my favorite this year. The costumes, the performances. Like, this movie convinced me Aaron Taylor Johnson can act. And I just know that there's so much left for Robert Eggers to do as a director. And everything about this, from being horrifying to captivating to challenging, is what makes him not only a force to be reckoned with, but Nosferatu to stand on its own two legs, regardless of its legacy. Number 11, Maxine. So, this is definitely a movie not everyone loved. I did, okay? I love the X movies. I love the first film. I love Pearl. And I really love Maxine. Like, each of these pretty much equally, because they all have their own pros, strengths. They're all different, yet really just tell a story about sacrifice and what it takes to follow your dreams, the horrors of the people around you, what they have to, well, suffer in order for you to achieve what you want and what you need to do. It's one of those things that really, well, okay, I can't pretend like I've gone through what, Maxine has. But regardless, it's just one of those things about, as someone who wants to be a future filmmaker, and just the emptiness that comes with just getting what you want, or maybe there is joy, but only briefly. It's one of those things where it's dark, yet challenging in all the right ways. I just really like Maxine, and I do feel a bit sad that I bumped it from being in the top 10 itself, because I did see a new movie to bump this down this year. They came out last year, and I can't deny it's easily deserves to be in that top 10 list more than Maxine. But please, even if Maxine's at 11, or even if it's not perfect, I still recommend it and hope other people like it. And by this point, I've sort of gone over, well, okay, not over hating them, but sort of not being mad. In that sense, I'd rather just get this over with. So here are my choices for the top 10 worst films of 2024. Number 10, Harold and the Purple Crayon. Number 9, The Union. Number 8, Reunion. That wasn't supposed to intentionally rhyme. Okay. Number 7, Woody Woodpecker Goes to Camp. Number 6, Uglies. Number 5, Cat and Dog. Number 4, Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate. Number 3, Lift. Number 2, Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. And at number 1, my worst film of 2024 is Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scargiver. I didn't see the director's cut, so maybe it's better. With that being said, now that I got my worst films of 2024 out of the way, here are the top 10 films of 2024, with number 10 being Hitman. Glenn Powell stars in this great dark comedy that takes reality and fantasy and puts to challenge the idea of what if someone who pretends to be a hitman for a living to help uncover people who would hire someone else to do the dirty deed, to push so far what it takes to be, what would you do if you had to do something so wrong in order to get what was right in the end, to challenge the good person you are, and what happens if we give into these dark fantasies. It's just, when I put it like that, it's not as dark as it sounds, because it is really funny, charismatic. The leads work off each other so well. It's such a great script, and honestly very inspiring just to sort of see how far you can stretch reality without being disrespectful to the real life people. Maybe the real life guy this is based off of would have liked maybe what they did with him. But regardless, on its own, and this is one of those things where truly in the vacuum, I do love and appreciate everything about Hitman. Give or take some flaws, but yeah. Number 9, Doom Part 2. This movie means a lot to me more personally than I don't know how much I can share. It's something where a certain member of my family looked forward to seeing more than any other film I can think of, and he passed away before we could see it, so I had to see it for the two of us, and I know he would have loved it so much. It's one of those things where it's a sequel better than the first, and just really puts in compelling Shakespearean ways of why Dune is such a crown jewel in terms of sci-fi epics. It's just visually captivating. Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, everyone's just really good. Denis Villeneuve really shows why he's just one of the most impressive directors today. And Dune Part 2 is something where, even if you didn't like the first one, I think you might be surprised if you watch this one. Okay. Number 8, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Man, it's a shame this movie bombed. Granted, I don't know who his target audience is. When I went to go see this, I was the one young guy in a theater full of particular audience members. Look, regardless of whatever I'm about to say that's insulting towards what it failed to achieve, Furiosa to me does so many things that Mad Max Fury Road didn't do as well. Like, I think the character stuff of this is just more compelling. I think the structure is more interesting. No, okay, the structure in the other movie is more captivating, but this one's interesting to me in ways where I found the character arc just really good. If I saw none of the other movies, the world is just so beautiful, chaotic, and monstrous, and yet somehow mesmerizing in ways that you truly have to watch the movie. Like, Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth give some really great performances that are unlike anything else in their career, and I just feel like George Miller delivers a masterpiece once more. Number 7, Civil War. Well, if you love talking about politics, what am I saying? No one likes to. But Civil War is definitely the kind of movie where I sort of wasn't sure how to feel going in, given it being an election year, and a lot of people weren't really happy how, I wouldn't say apolitical its message is, but sort of just how it's not really about realistically the problems of America at the moment, but more so about what it could become. But what it does say and accomplish is just haunting. Like, how realistic it does feel this is the future we could have, given how divided we are as a people. And this says something to me with just the beautiful cinematography. One of easily the best cast of the year, Kirsten Dunst, Kaylee Spaney, the others. I'm improving this whole thing. Regardless, this movie has great cinematography, haunting moments that will stick with me. Honestly, just a very strange sadness, yet captivation of just how this is something that feels real and feels important. And not every movie can say they feel important right now, but Civil War does. Number 6, Memoir of a Snail. Easily my favorite stop motion film of the year. Sorry, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance, Most Foul. Okay, Memoir of a Snail is just from the guy who made Mary and Max. And well, that's a movie I understand why it's beloved, and I'm not going to be a contrarian. This movie felt more organic and towards just, well, it really shows the strengths of just having these well-defined characters that feel like this is something designed where it has no faults and towards what is missing in these people's lives. And the animation is just beautiful. The story is sad, yet hopeful, strange, and yet welcoming. It's one of those films that you may not be the most into its dark comedy or very dark moments, but just when it's just the most optimistic, when it's the most funny, when it's the most heartwarming, it just shows to me why Memoir of a Snail is just one of those one-of-a-kind films that anyone can see, and I really wish people see more and talk about it a lot. Number 5, Hundreds of Beavers. I mean, this is pretty much the breakout hit of 2024 that just shows what indie filmmaking is possible, and it's a shame that, well, it isn't getting any award recognition. Like, I understand why, but like, this is what true filmmaking is. Just trying to tell something that really isn't being done with just great throwback to the black and white silent era of comedy and live action cartoon antics that, like saying all that, it's still its own thing. It's just, we have a man who just wants to survive and hunting down animals and just the most insane antics happen. Yet there's this Edgar Wright sense of like, everything coming together, all the little jokes build up to a big joke, and everything's just so funny. Like, this might be the funniest film of the decade, and really, it's one of those things where paraphrasing any joke right now is ruining the surprise if you know nothing. Like, it's free on a lot of platforms. Just look it up, watch it, and that is all I need to say. Just watch Hundreds of Beavers, please. This is what filmmaking is. Number 4, Inside Out 2. This would have been my favorite animated film of the year if something else I saw didn't push it aside. Regardless, I like this. Okay, I love this movie, actually. You know what? As much as I'm 20 and the stuff about this being for people, you know, as much as I've grown past a lot of the subject matter this movie's about, this still relates to me. Just sort of the thing about, you know, you grow up, you're changing, you don't always stay the same person. And it's a movie that elevates a lot of the ideas from the original. It's, I don't know if I say better, it's on point at the very least. It truly is something where the animation is just so beautiful. Like, wow, they really show, like, this isn't something that's just a cash grab. I know a lot of people don't love this on just the first, but that is naysay to me. I love it. I just think the story is captivating, the humor is hilarious, the voice acting is so good. It really shows why Pixar is at the top of their game. And this being the highest grossing film of 2024, as far as I know, kind of shows why it has become the big hit it is. Okay. Number 3, The Remarkable Life of Evelyn. Easily my favorite documentary of last year. It's a Netflix documentary that really brought me to tears. Yeah, it's very optimistic and heartfelt that obviously a lot of movies should be. It should be something that, you know, it can make you cry and you feel like, you know, it's terrible what happens in this world, but the people in it just show us how far we've come with just, you know, what do we see at face value versus what's going on and what kind of people we are. And I really love this documentary. It's about this Norwegian gamer named Mats Steen who had muscular dystrophy and, you know, spent all his time playing World of Warcraft. To his parents, they didn't see, you know, they saw him wasting his time, but we see the true impact he had on the friends and community, you know, just as this character. And just, honestly, I was impressed. They show him as, you know, he's not perfect. He has his flaws, but he's also very, well, you know, charming and really sincere about just what kind of person it takes to be behind the scenes and what you're willing to show about the real you and how much it can be horrifying and yet heartfelt that there are people willing to, you know, see you for who you really are. Not on the outside, but on the inside. Number 2, Flow. This is the movie that wasn't originally on my top 20 list because I didn't see it in 2024. But having finally seen it, I can't deny this is easily one of the best anime films of the decade. It's one of the best films of the decade. This is what filmmaking is. like I said with Hundreds of Beavers in terms of comedy and independent spirit, this is just what storytelling is, really. It's no dialogue. We follow a bunch of animals, mostly a cat, and just trying to survive in a world where we don't know fully what's going on. Maybe there's things we can figure out, things we can guess, we can assume. It's what can we communicate to each other, and what can we hope that in the end is going to lead to us surviving. And yet we just follow a bunch of animals who all still have personality. It isn't just, oh, that's the cat, that's the golden retriever, that's the lemur. We really do feel like these are people coming together and just trying to survive, and what it takes to find friends and family among a world we may not able to trust each other, but we learn to love each other in the end. Also, it was kind of helpful that I watched this with a friend, and her cat was there right between us watching, so it does help. And my number one film of 2024 is The Substance. Without question, easily one of those movies that just is bonkers. Corey Farjo really made a movie that was worth seeing in theaters, and I watched it with subtitles, so I really hope she wins screenplay. And regardless of this not being for everyone, like, trust me, when I kept being asked, should people see this movie? I mean, it depends if you're comfortable with Cronenberg-esque gore and madness, but man, that madness is captivating and just intriguing in ways that I don't think I've ever seen in any other movie. It definitely is. You can see its inspirations and wears on its sleeves and loves it. It's unsubtle in its message, yet it feels like it needs to be bold and proud of just saying, the world we live in. It gives us a flawed protagonist. And I love any movie that has a tragedy that, isn't someone suffering for nothing. It is one of those things where, it's a monkey's paw situation. It's one of those things where, obviously maybe it doesn't make the most sense, and yet what we're willing to do to make the obvious wrong choice in order to do it right by us, because we feel like this is a world that we have to be one thing for another. It's a thing where Demi Moore gives easily my favorite female performance of the year. I don't know if she'll win the Oscar. In fact, this isn't about awards. And this isn't about anything else. It's just telling people that I love this movie. The visuals, it's beautiful. The gore, it's horrifying. The score, I really love this movie. The Substance is my favorite film of 2024, without a doubt. It hasn't changed since. I remember that movie so much. It's inspired me to take chances and go beyond my comfort zone in terms of, other projects I'm doing. And it has been a while since I posted on this YouTube channel. And I have so many things in the work, and things are changing for me. But regardless, films are still my passion. And I don't know if it will change anytime soon. I don't know what will get in the way. What will I do in order to sacrifice, to intrigue, to change the way I see the world, or maybe the world sees me. I'm going to continue being who I am. And whatever happens, I'm just glad I made it this far. And people listening, I'm glad you got to hear what I thought of 2024's best films. Thank you for listening and watching.